I think their apology, if it can be called that, was so much worse.
Yes, totally.
I think if you're going to say anything, you come out and go, listen, his mom called, and you can't say no to a mom.
And welcome back. You are listening to Hysteria, the podcast that's dying to know what happened from an on-the-ground source at Burning Man. And that brings us to our first panelist, Michaela Watkins. Who was at Burning Man? Why?
80,000 people were at Burning Man.
Yes.
Why can only be answered individually by each person. I can tell you why I went, which was our friend Reed designed the temple, which is this sort of beautiful space there that is kind of very different from the rest of Burning Man because it's very quiet. It's very sacred-y space. It's where people go and like kind of barf and dump out all their mourning and grief. And it's really something. Like to go there, listen, will I go to Burning Man again? I don't know. Maybe. I went 9 years ago and swore I'd never go back. My husband got a hair up his ass to go this year. I hate that expression.
I've never heard that. Michaela,
Yeah,
I think that's
it's awful.
Self-created.
It's disgusting. I'll never say it again.
A bee in his bonnet.
A bee in his bonnet to go because, he's like, this is a once in 3 lifetimes thing that we know somebody who's making this, like, and then they basically in effigy torch it on the last night. But there are just people very, expressing and mourning in there. And it's just like the most gorgeous thing you ever saw. And I wish every town had I guess people are like, well, that is a temple. But, but I just mean, like that because of one of their tenets is radical inclusion, right? So that means anybody can, express themselves on the way they want. So people are just like very publicly grieving in there. And it could be anything from, oh my God, so many pictures of, dead moms and sadly children too. But then there's like wedding dresses in there that just say fraud across it. Somebody's like going to torch it that night. And, it's the last thing to burn there. So, okay. So was there a weather event? Yes. It rained. It rained. And then I started I didn't really have cell service, but I got these texts from people saying, are you okay? Are you okay? And I said to my husband, I think something really bad happened. I didn't realize we were the headline. I didn't realize Burning Man was a headline. It just rained. They said, this is such a metaphor for life, right? They said, don't drive so that the playa can heal itself. It'll harden. Just don't drive on it. That's all we ask. It's Saturday. Most people go home Sunday or Monday. Don't drive on it. Humans are like, don't drive on it means I personally need to get the fuck out of here. So people started to drive on it and they got stuck. And that's where the clusterfuck started to happen.
And then rounding out our panel, she has some comedy tour dates coming up in the Midwest. Chicago on September 22nd and 23rd. Columbus, Ohio on September 26th. Cincinnati on September 27th. Cincinnati's basically Kentucky, right?
It's actually going to be in Liberty, which is Kentucky. But I can't get into the weeds on what is Kentucky and what is Ohio.
Right. I feel like that's a very regional conversation.
Yes.
And Indianapolis on September 29th. Megan Gailey, welcome back.
Hello. The Midwest will be my Burning Man.
And then, at the end, you just
I'll torch something. I'll torch my parents' home. No, I won't. It's lovely.
Honestly, both of these things sound like A24 films.
That is so funny. That is so funny.
Okay. We are going to get into a news story this week that has kind of it's seeped into everything, I think. It's become like the center of like online feminist discourse, and it's become the center of there's people who are very Scientology people. It's Scientology discourse. It's a lot, and that's the story of Danny Masterson receiving a 30-year sentence for his rape case, despite the fact that all of his That 70s Show castmates, with the exception of Topher Grace. Yes, Topher Grace, who is cool, apparently, wrote letters urging leniency from the judge. Alyssa, what did you make of the 30-year sentence for Masterson and then the ensuing revelations about his associations with the people who tried to support him.
I mean, here's the thing. First of all, seems like he did some bad shit, and he's paying a price for it. He has been punished. This is great. Okay. Now, the letter. I mean, this is a problem. If someone told me before a trial that you, Erin, murdered somebody.
Oh, it depends on who.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. What
if they deserved it?
No, but this is my thing. They had a very special relationship with him that they thought superseded. Like them understanding what he did also indicts in a way their own judgment, right? This is a person that they consider to be a good and trustworthy person. So my point is, I can understand if before the trial they were like, I don't know, he's a good guy. But then like when everything comes out and like the jury's like, yeah, no, he's fucking bad. I feel like you really got to pick your battles, and they did not pick the correct battle.
Mm-hmm. Michaela, what did you make of the whole thing?
Okay. I mean, from everything I've sort of read about it, it seems like, there was this accusation that this is really was only happened because it was, an assault on Scientology, on their reputation. And I was like, nobody had to make up a rape case to, go after Scientology's reputation. That was already pretty much was already cast. Am I just making up expressions today?
No.
Wool was
the dye.
Okay.
Thank you. The dye was already cast. Yes. Hi. I'm going to see a neurologist after this. But anyway, I'm going to both sides of this and end up somewhere, so you have to listen to the whole thing. Nobody's allowed to just like cut out a little snippet of what I'm about to say, because the first part is going to bother everybody. When you are the age that they were, getting on a hit TV show, and they were a family, they were probably a cult of personalities in there. They were probably bonded in a way that, imagine theater camp on steroids, where everybody's not just hanging out with each other 24/7, but they're getting extremely famous and rich together. And they probably feel like they were in some kind of trench together, and that their formative years were together. And so I often think, when I see somebody, stepping up for somebody who's on the stand, like, what if I woke up tomorrow and somebody accused my dearest loved ones of a crime? And what do you do in that moment that doesn't completely sell out your friend immediately due to an accusation? What the issue here is that there is nothing to suggest that these accusations were wrong or that these people were lying. And the irony that they said, well, in their letters, that he was keeping them off drugs at a time where they were so vulnerable. And the fact that, the case was about him because he was saving them up for his, victims is just, it's abhorrent. It's unconscionable that they would not be able to step outside of themselves at that moment and go, okay, now this is our psychology. This is our evolution that we have to get over. That, yeah, we were in this, band of brothers maybe. I'm by the way, I'm projecting this. I don't even know if this is true, but this is the only reason I could ever see that bond does get really strong, especially given their age. But I don't excuse it in any way, shape, or form, because now they have to say, who am I defending, and what does that say about me? And the fact that they did it, it's confounding, especially given their sex trafficking organization. Take it away, Megan. I
really do agree with you, Michaela, and I actually think that's a very valuable perspective. As someone who is a successful working actress, to go, it's you end up being family with people, and it goes beyond sort of like job. I think their apology, if it can be called that, was so much worse. I think if you're gonna say anything, you come out and go, listen, his mom called, and it was, you can't say no to a mom or like what, but it's like, you cannot defend this. And then the human trafficking of it all is really, I think, what is something we can learn from, to go, okay, now let's actually take a step back outside of Ashton and Mila. Iggy Azalea also wrote a letter in support of Tory Lanez, who was found guilty of shooting Megan Thee Stallion. So this does happen.
Oh, God.
And it happens, I'm sure, on a non-famous scale all the time.
So does that make Ashton Kutcher the Iggy Azalea of that 70s show?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yep. Okay.
So you take a step back, and I've seen really thoughtful analysis of this, of going, these are two people that have, dedicated time and resources and a lot of their life's work to fighting human trafficking. And you want to go, hey, babe, the call's coming from in the house. Like, why don't you set up a foundation to attack sexual assault within organized religion? Because that is what's actually, like, it's a lot easier to point outside of us and go, there's a boogeyman and he's coming to get all of our daughters. When it's like, actually, it's coaches, it's religious leaders, it's neighbors, it's family. That is much more prevalent. And so, yes, your work is valuable. And yes, that is a real thing. And I think it's amazing that airline workers are being trained on it, and people that are coming in contact with actual victims of trafficking, because it is real. I do think it's conflated, though. And what is actually happening, what we really need boots on the ground for, is shit like this. And it's like that your work does not make it so that you're allowed to defend this other person.
Can I say one thing to sort of clarify what I was trying to say in the beginning, but both Megan and Michaela have helped me? I could see being a character witness during a trial much more than I could see sending this letter of support after the verdict had come out. That was kind of my point. Before you have heard everything, you go into the trial and you're like, here's my personal experience with this person. That's it. What the letters after the fact to me say is like, you heard everything. The jury was like, yeah, he fucking did it. And then you're like, but you know what? He shouldn't go to jail as long as the average bear because he's a good person. It doesn't work that way. That was kind of what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, the letters from Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher about how he kept us off drugs. He was such a good influence. It's like, maybe he should spend more time in jail. Maybe
two things can be true.
Yeah.
I had someone, I don't even know if I've spoken about this on the show. I had someone physically assault me, who I have since came to me because of AA and made peace with me, and that's another thing. And there was someone in that situation who protected me, who went to bat for me, and I felt like physically protected me when someone else was physically attacking me. And then when all the Kavanaugh hearings were coming out, a different person I know texted me, woman, and said, I see that you are friends with so-and-so who protected me. Mm-hmm. This person sexually assaulted me. And I said, I believe you. I fully believe that happened. This is the situation that they helped me in. What would you like me to do? Like, I'll unfollow them and I'll never be their friend again. Mm-hmm. And it's like, those two people are complicated. They have layers. So someone can protect one person and be a predator for another person. That is possible.
Yeah. I mean, like BTK, serial killer, had a daughter and a wife.
Yeah.
He did not kill or hurt his daughter and wife.
But I think that's like what is true about so many criminals. And I think what we're realizing, there are some people who are just bad news, but there are some people who are just, they went and they're so philanthropic and they did all this stuff and then they invented Oxycontin.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes though people view karma as like a bank account balance that they're allowed to spend at will. Like, I did all this good stuff. Now I deserve this. Like, it's the same mentality. I deserve to be bad. Like, it's the same mentality of like, I don't know, you treat a woman really nicely for a long time. Sex needs to come out from her eventually. Yeah. Like, I was nice to you. I helped you move. Now you owe, like, I paid into this.
Or they do the good stuff out of guilt for the bad stuff they've done.
Right, exactly. And in one way or another, they believe that it's a balance that they can like somehow achieve, make up for, or earn the right to be bad. I think another thing that struck me on this is I had a friend who, I'm not in contact with them anymore, but there were accusations against him.
Mm-hmm.
And like when it happened, I completely froze up. But here's what I didn't do. I didn't speak out publicly about what a good guy he was. I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't think that's relevant to whether or not he did what he did. Like that doesn't seem like something he would do, but that's not like relevant.
That's not for you to decide.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I ended up just kind of in this really awkward place, and I don't even know if I did the right thing. Like I said, I kind of froze and was like, I don't know what to do. And I didn't like stop being his friend, but I kind of slowly did the fade away.
I did that I was going to say this exact story. I had drinks with a friend in New York kind of recently, and she told me about someone I knew in high school who was a really good friend of mine in high school and so supportive of me. Just like, you know, there's somebody, you know, there's just like that 1 in 50 people that really gets your sense of humor and just, you know, kind of helps you be you.
Mm-hmm.
And he's that guy.
Yeah.
And she told me that she has a friend that said that he assaulted her in high school. And, you know, he's somebody who would comment on stuff on Instagram and we would banter and the DMs, whatever. And then the line just kind of went dead for me. But I don't know, because we're not friends now. I don't know how to confront him and go, hey, did you happen to rape this person?
Mm-hmm.
But I was also like, the line's dead. Like the line's gone cold. And I don't know. There's no template for that. Like,
oh God, no.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's what you don't do. You don't write a letter.
No.
No, and honestly, I don't know if anyone else read the judge's ruling when the sentencing came down. I read it last night, and I honestly think these letters hurt him. I really do. Like in the long run, I think the judge was like, I don't care about that 70s show. Like I don't know what you're, because in it, and I don't know if the judge is a man or a woman. I believe it's a woman, but they're like the first thing they say is, you are not the victim here. Like they are spelling out for a person who is just found guilty of multiple counts of rape. No, the system has not failed you. Mm-hmm. You are not the victim. You did this, and everything that's going to come after is a result of your poor decisions. And I was like, wow, I wonder how often a judge has to tell a criminal that they're not the victim.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I also think that he was not only not the victim, he was the beneficiary of an entire massive system that was designed to protect him from consequence. Alyssa, you're nodding.
Ugh.
I mean, I know this is sort of like talking about Scientology is sort of like sticking your dick in a hornet's nest. But on that note, what do you make of like the way that his religious organization allegedly protected him?
I mean, look, I worked for Lifetime when they were helping Leah Remini tell her story of Scientology and escaping it. I mean, look, Danny Masterson never had my support, but you know, the thing, Erin, that got me was the TikTok you sent me about the woman who went down the rabbit hole, who was like parsing the letters of support line by line, and someone lifted out the that he had started a fundraiser for victims of 9/11. And that instead of giving them money, he opened a clinic to help them, where they would tell the first responders, oh, go here, here's a clinic. They'll help you for all of your like 9/11 related trauma and sickness. And it was like a Scientology recruitment center. What?
Are you fucking kidding me?
Fuck. Fuck you. Like that is, look, everything that we know about Scientology, I'm sure led him to believe it would be fine. He would be fine. They would take care of it. But yuck. Just yuck. I saw that, and you know me, I go to bed early, and it was like near bedtime, and I got all whooped up about that one. I was like, oh, that's it. That's the line in this. You know, there are a lot of lines in the sand with what he did, but like, if you're going to talk about someone's good deeds and they can be unraveled that quickly by someone on TikTok, your good deeds aren't that good.
It's also interesting that in their apology, they said, we only did this because his parents asked us to.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
okay.
I actually think that's fine. I actually think that's the most like reasonable answer, to be like, he sucks, but like his mom was really upset. Like, because I do think there's a world where you can get very backed in the corner by someone's family who is
innocent and you love them.
And here's the thing too, is I truly don't want to get too in the weeds on any situation, but sometimes things come out about people and there's obviously a range. And I always use like Harvey Weinstein as the top and like Louis C.K. somewhere down, like there really is a range of bad things. And certain things come out about certain people and they're on like what would be quote unquote the lower end of the spectrum. And my initial reaction now, having lost certain people, is I don't want them to commit suicide. I don't want anyone that loves them to harm themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is a genuine fear of someone losing. And all of that is a result of his poor decisions. Like that doesn't take any of that away. I don't think there's any benefit in being like, your mom is bad or you're, like I don't know what good that does. But that is a true fear I have of people that I have cared about who have found themselves in not similar situations, but on the scale.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I think Danny Masterson in this situation, I guess if I were Mila Kunis and his mom called me, it would be hard for me to say no.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I were Danny Masterson's mom, I would not have the audacity to ask people who are working actors or who are like semi-working actors or high-profile public people
an anti-sex trafficking organization.
That is a big ask.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Hail Mary, and I think that's a little bit audacious.
But he had 30 letters. I mean, it was like a high number.
Moms love calling people.
His mom needs to do some fundraising for Katie Porter.
Yeah, seriously, maybe she can undo. It seems very like, of course, a mom is going to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I think maybe she was like out of pocket for asking his friends and stuff.
Again, this could also just be set life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like she was the den mother, and so it's almost like their
also,
mother. I don't know. I don't know, but
No,
I can
right.
guess.
I was going to say, it also goes to your earlier point that is, look, she is devastated. His mother is facing her own kind of trauma. She's spiraling, right? She's sending out emails. She's making phone calls. She's like, please, please, please. And nobody can back away from this desperate woman, or I assume she's desperate, to go and make these things. However, again, it goes back to the response to getting called out for the letter, right? Like Mila and Ashton, anyone who didn't think, look, if one of you three, if your Maz asked me to write a letter, I would do so knowing, again, I would probably prefer to testify as a character witness in your trial as opposed to write the letter.
Okay.
But like,
Mom, listen,
lady, here's what I'll give you. But I think that like you have to know there's going to be blowback and you should be prepared for it and what you're going to say. And again, their response to getting called out was like equally as bad as their letters.
Mila seemed mad.
She looked despondent. Like they
how
looked,
dare you?
Right.
It's funny, in Iggy Azalea's response, she says outright, I didn't think any of you were going to see this. Like, I thought this was like between a judge and me, and now it's on Reddit.
Right.
Like, I didn't know that. And I'm like, I wonder, like, did Mila and Ashton know? And they just said, we're willing to, because this is definitely like legacy ruining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it really is. I mean, like Streisand effect, we talk about that a lot, but it seems to happen more and more. And people just seem completely unaware that it's a thing, which is ironic considering what the Streisand effect is. Like, by writing this letter and then by making that weird, I follow this like PR expert on TikTok who's one of my favorite followers. I forget her name, but we'll drop her in the show notes. And she was like, that's not an apology video, it's an explanation video.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like and they weren't that, like, they use the word if. You can't use an if in an apology. That's like a conditional. You just can't do it.
He's found guilty.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to do any of the like,
There's no
I don't
ifing.
want to get into semantics. It's
Also,
like, he's guilty.
Just post the verbiage. Like, you don't have to read it and act like you're looking at a camera.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it was like
Just
a hostage video.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just like say, here's our statement, and send that out and let people, like, you didn't do yourself any favors either by looking so put out by
That's the thing, is that their video made them also seem like victims. Like, they looked teary-eyed, they looked sullen, and it's like, no, guys, in this whole soup of misery, there's only a few victims here, and none of them are you.
You are the person in the situation to whom the least bad thing happened.
Yes.
Like, everybody else is literally having worse things happen to them.
And on that note, I mean, this is what really gets me right in my gut, is that they were penning this letter knowing that these victims, one of the victims was disowned by her entire family because she was pressing charges. Lost her family. Her mother said, yeah, I do hope he goes to jail, but I'm but not at the expense of the church, So I'm going to put church before my own daughter's rape case. And when you just think about these brave women and what they had to pull themselves through to go through this, to come up against the Church of Scientology.
Yep.
That alone is just like, if you're not totally all in behind these women, then I really don't know where your head is. And it makes me think, if I'm going to put on my most compassionate hat, it makes me think that these kids were real, that this guy really did their head in too, when they were all working together, and they really need to, have some inner child work done and really look at who they were at that time versus who they are now, and understand that they were being snow jobbed as well. So I mean, I think if I were the publicist, I'd be like, go discover that maybe in some way you are a victim too, because you were gaslit by this guy, and make amends for that.
I gotta say though, if Masterson is as good at convincing people he's a leader as all of his character letters say, and he rose to prominence in the Church of Scientology, maybe he's gonna come out of jail with a bunch of new recruits for Scientology. Maybe he's just gonna convert the whole jail. They're all gonna get their. What is it? Getting your e-meter read or whatever.
I don't
Become
know.
an admiral. What do you?
It's called auditing.
Auditing. They're all gonna.
Isn't everything like boat captains?
Yeah, they're all like boat captain words. Auditing is a weird word to use for an organization that doesn't pay taxes.
That doesn't pay taxes.